Sense and Wonder for another episode about art, but not only. So painting is the art that consists in applying pigments to different dimensional supports, and the result is an image that, depending on the author's intention, expresses the perceptions of the world in a free association of forms or any other meaning, depending on the author creativity. In this case, when I met Pato, I felt these love affairs between gods, which I loved. And to attract painters and observers, his technique is quite special. So when I saw his paintings for the first time, he reminded me of a motivation of works derived from the myth hunted down from Ovid's Metamorphosis, which is about these adventures in the sky, but sometimes they also go back to the planet Earth. Thanks to Pato. Hello, Pato. Welcome to.
Hello, a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So, of course, today we are going to talk about your story and philosophy of life, but of course, this is the beginning of an adventure with Pato, because he will be organizing many events at his gallery. So this is the presentation of him before something else happening. Pato, so where do you want to start?
Well, I would like to start by something that I just sparkled my imagination, that what you said there about what painting is, no?
Yeah.
Because I was suddenly thinking that we either we human beings, I mean, we either think about the world, you know, or we perceive it. No, and we perceive it like through our senses, and I think that painting, I mean, the magic of painting is that you can bring those two things together. Absolutely. Right, in an artifact, as it were. So when Vincent van Gogh paints the Starry Nights or the Cafe at Night or any landscape, he's not just describing what he sees, but he's also putting what he feels in a physical form, and the spiritual joy of that, when one connects, of course, with any painting or author of painter, is that one feels a release of this existential drama in which we are all placed, in which we cannot see. We cannot feel the fulfillment. You know, when we are in the woods, when we are in the city, when we are anywhere, in any surrounding, we never can, the reality is always escaping us, you know, and to stop time, to make this perception infinite. There are, of course, many ways of doing that, but art or painting, it certainly brings about that very strongly, you know, and if one only describes reality physically, maybe like a photography would do, nothing happens. But if you begin to put something of what you feel in front of it, in the case of, to go back to the example of Vincent, that he, those stars and skies, you cannot totally see. You need to see and feel them, you know, at the same time.
Yeah.
So in a way, art sort of makes feelings perceptible, you know?
So true. And what I felt from your paintings, because I've been looking at them very passionately, as you know, I can see this metamorphosis concept, which is, as you said, an actual concept of human beings that is so important to accept, because it's about growth, it's about changing identity, not getting stuck in the same identity, like gods used to do. So they were transforming during this metamorphosis in many different shapes, like animals, for example, like he was doing Jupiter transforming himself in bull to kidnap Europa, his lover. So that's what I felt in your paintings. So you represent a concept that is so important for us to think about: metamorphosis, transformation.
Yes, wow, it's fantastic, because you're right that in mentioning that beautiful concept of metamorphosis, which is very important to me, but you also referring to this book, which was on a way some sort of a Bible, or together with the Bible, the essential source of the Renaissance, you know?
Yes.
And I think the way I see it, there's so much to say about this, but the way I see it is that the Western civilization became more and more since the Middle Ages, on a way onwards into modernity, became quite subjective, quite sort of separated from the surrounding. I mean, we find in the 1600s the beginning of modernity with René Descartes and Newton and all this objectivation of reality outside, and therefore this spirituality or internal reality becomes more and more psychological.
Absolutely.
Right? And in Antiquity, in the gods, in the Metamorphosis, we are in a world that has no interiority, in which the gods are on a way and the forces are at the same time in constant present, in constant communion with everyone. So when one reads back things from Antiquity, the Greeks and with the early Romans and stuff, one is shocked not to see any separation from reality or any psychological questioning like we will see later, you know? So this whole world, of course, we contain that, but for me, opened up as I began an artistic, if you want to call it like that, investigation of that through the National Gallery into the British Museum, sort of Antiquity. And when one goes there, one actually is not confronted with art in the modern sense of an artist expressing himself, but rather magical objects, you know, that are certainly out of context. But if you draw, if you empty yourself from yourself and begin to meditate on the shape, something of that comes back, you know?
Absolutely. And in my opinion, the difference is that we are all gods, but while before they were focusing on their inner strengths, today we lose this power we have because we are too projected into the outside world. So your representation of paintings made me feel that we are the gods and we are able to use our inner powers only if we are aware of our inner talents. So thanks to your paintings, I realized how beautiful is this God world that we often miss because we are too focused on the outside world while we are the gods of this planet.
Yeah, wow, so well put, Francesca. Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think that in general we all are somehow in the modernity sort of separated from the reality. So in a way that's why there's this rise of there was this rise in last century, whatever, of explaining everything psychologically, you know, and even the Freud and everything else sees a sort of internal thing that projects things into the outside, and that's a very different ontology, different way of understanding what being is. Than in the time when the gods were. So to conceive that the gods are in you or are sort of an interaction is to open oneself to the wonderful, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not just the theology of fixed things, like a lot of people have that image of fixed religiosity, but rather it's a wonderful world of higher presence and lower presence and furies and demons and, you know, beings of light, beings of darkness, and within them one is a sort of a, I guess, magician or a prism that one is always sort of surfing those forces.
And you are surfing these forces, I have noticed, Pato. So regarding what you just said, why there is this metamorphosis and transformation philosophy behind your paintings? What happened in your life that brought you to this state of mind of representing gods transforming these powerful, impactful shapes that almost fade away, and then there is this strong figure representing the shade and the shape fading away? What is this representation? Where does it come from?
Well, to be completely honest, I don't know, but of course I can try to say, and I have a lot of things to say. But given that I'm within that wave, that is through which these things are manifesting themselves. I do feel the forces, but I don't see them. I cannot know them in an objective way because I'm sort of blind inside them. But I can see now that I've been sort of painting for a long time that I'm hugely marked by, well, like every artist is, by the surroundings of my upbringing. Because I'm from South America, from Chile, where the landscape, the elements are very strong, the sea, the mountains, the minerals, you know, and of course I was unaware of that until I sort of was in inverted commas, the old world, you know, and so in that sense, I'm always looking for that intensity, telluric intensity, you know, which is primal and which contains some sort of life, you know, and that began to get mixed up in a clash with the culture of the West, or the tradition. So in many ways, I see myself as a sort of wanderer, a vandal from the end of the world, you know, arriving at the old world, you know, and sort of ramshackling the remnants, you know, because in Europe there is a crisis, you know, of or maybe a change of period in which there is a lot of questioning, you know, and the mythologizing of everything, and I am not part of that, you know. I'm sort of part of the whole thing. So there is a drive. There's always been a drive in me to come to the old world, to the promised land of the art, as it were. And finding, to my utter amazement, that in a way they're not sort of celebrating in general that anymore, but they're sort of questioning it. Yeah. So I am sort of coming from outside the culture into it. Into it, yes. So you explore the culture through your paintings. Yes, not in an intellectual. I mean, I love ideas and philosophy, and I certainly always thinking about it, but not in an academic sort of cold way, but rather through, well, I think like an artist to do it through forms, you know, through actual works. So bring, like in the latest series of paintings, elements of London, you know, and echoes of antiquity mixed with these figures of gods and heroes, which are also us. And animals, yes, it's us. Yes, exactly. Animals. In that mysterious way in which gods manifest themselves, I will say that in most of antiquity, certainly not in Greece, but as anthropomorphic, and the qualities. I mean, Egypt is amazing, you know, those goddesses in the British Museum, the goddess Sekhmet, which is half lion, half woman, and it's all elevated in such an amazing, mysterious way, you know. Beautiful, yes, I have noticed. And you paint with many materials, because some of your drawings are very black, so you must use charcoal plus other materials. So what do you use exactly when you paint? Because there is everything. That's a fascinating point, because a big part of my work, the works on paper, the one maybe in the link you're going to give her, titled Antiquity, they are the work I began to do around, well, maybe 6-7 years ago at the British Museum, when I began to draw in situ, in front of the things, with this sort of medium charcoal pen, which I get a lot of effects with your hand, eraser. But then in the studio, I began, because of the materiality of the artifacts, I began to feel that the texture in them, I needed to respond to the presence. So I began to, quite experimentally at the beginning, to mix wine and ink, which don't mix, and they create some sort of wall of materials, and they break each other, and they create like a stony texture that I control and let go at the same time, you know. And some magical things appear, like you will be doing a horse, and then suddenly doing the rest of the body, and then the same marks, the same fluidity will suggest a lion, or
Wow.
so there is an element of divination, of plastic divination, which was important then, that one can sort of reawake.
This is an amazing example also of our approaching life. You don't think of the outcome, but you enjoy the process, giving your best. That's how we should live. The same way is approaching this painting, the dear Pato, we should do the same, not thinking of the outcome like you do, so controlling it in a way, but letting go at the same time.
Yes, yes, I love the image of the Greek ontology that Nietzsche picks up in the early book of his, the Birth of the Tragedy, that there are these two forces in life, in creativity, the Apollinian and the Dionysiac, because the Apollinian it's creativity, certainly, but it also has an element of order and control,
Beautiful.
And then the Dionysiac breaks that, and we are on a way surfing along both of them. So as soon as one has a drawing, for instance, that is too neat, you feel like the breath of life is not breathing strong. So something in you try to break it, but not so much as to become totally chaotic.
Yeah.
And I think that in drawings is perhaps easier than in painting, because the color is another element. But one can really see that in every artist, those two forces being combined in different ways. So I will do maybe, for instance, half a horse of Chinese or Roman culture, and then when I'm trying to combine a figure with this wine and ink, there will be a disruptive element that wants to bring a new life to it,
Sí.
and then it becomes like a childhood playfulness, I think Heraclitus has this saying that the universe is a child that plays with dice.
We should all keep our inner child alive. It's our happiness at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And the state of creation in that sense brings you about to a certain innocence and to a playfulness. So there is an ethical dimension to drawing. I mean, if you are, sort of this artist in South Africa and you draw the shanty towns or whatever, you're doing something ethical there, which is also political. It's not my personal take on that. But if you go to the British Museum and draw everything like I've been doing, I don't know exactly what it means, but you're doing something different to just think about it,
Yes.
It's just you're allowing those things to run through you.
Beautiful. And so regarding these figures, you are representing divine and not, there is a mix of the true human beings, because we are all divine and all humans. So during this representation, do you think all these figures are totally in love with themselves? Is ego one of the main values of these gods represented in your paintings, or is about a love that is shared between these divine figures? Is the ego representing their love for themselves, or is it more about a pure love going on?
When you say the ego, you mean...
excessively loving themselves to the point that they destroy themselves, because as we can see on those representation of your paintings, there are these gods, and then there is this ghostly shape that is fading away. So are them destroyed by their own ego, or it is something else happening?
Yeah, I feel like they are in a dance. In a dance, in a tug of war, in a pushing in and out, and that playfulness it's. I mean, some of them are very sensual.
But incredible.
Some of them are very well sensual, or you will say erotic, but not. I mean, I think in a sort of pornographic way, but rather that the sort of their meaning is also plastic, and. There is an original intention, perhaps. In a lot of the works, of course, are out of context, so they are eroded. They don't have paint anymore. And they are a beginning of something, but that beginning of something is very mysterious to me. I can answer to your question, Francesca, but it's only in retrospect that I understand where it happens. But I think that some of them, they do have, as you will say, as you put it, the ego clashing, and some of them are especially some of them might be sort of demons, not necessarily
bad
things, but on a way, angels or demons, they're not really free. You know, they advance towards one direction constantly, and you allow them in or out. But I've seen sort of different families of drawings. You know, I mean, in one of them, I mean, the horse and the muse appear a lot, and the muse seems to be sometimes teasing the horse or teasing the artist or inviting him somewhere. And then when the horse or the protagonist or the hero comes closer, it becomes ghostly. So it's, in a way, it's a kind of an ideal that when you come closer, it's not there, you know? It's beyond. It's always beyond.
It's always beyond. I love this. So the experience that art gives is pure and intense, what we feel from your paintings. What's the experience that you want to give to your observers while watching your work, while they feel it? Do you think of them while you paint, or do you think more of your introspection and of your philosophy? What do you think about while you paint, Pato? Must be different maybe every time, but we're curious to hear.
Yes, it's a complex question, because in all honesty, I don't think one should think in the audience in the moment of creation. You know, one is more than one when it was creating. But there is a moment in which you are in the process, in the battle, and you standing back and looking at what you're doing and deciding that you need to do more or less, or leave it or carry on. You need to trust that the audience, that it's an act of faith, that the audience is you.
Act of faith, we love it.
You know, so you don't really, the moment you think in the other as separate to you, you break down and begin to doubt, and that's not good. But that doesn't mean that it's a selfish act. You know, I think that all artists know that to do art means to give some sort of present to the rest of the people. You know. So when someone connects with what you do, you are never mind selling it or getting a good review. But when they connect, that's what it fulfills the what one does, which is to offer something. So in that offering, of course, there is the utter shock that if the other person the audience doesn't like it, it hurts, right? But in the moment of pursuing the vision, humanity become humanity, and you just go for it, you know.
Totally, you lead by example. Yes.
Yeah. Any crack in it's like, I don't know, if you're doing a ceremonial invoking angels and demons, and then you start thinking if that's right or wrong, they will probably eat you alive or send you into madness.
Yes, it's true. And if you hadn't been an artist, Pato, what would you be? A writer, a sculptor? Have you been an artist all your life? Because you have.
I think I will be some sort of adventurer or traveler, you know. But the world has been. We ran out of places to virgin places to go, so it's better to do it in the art. No, I think that an artist, I mean, I'm quite radical in that sense. I don't think that you can choose to be an artist. I think that you either are or not, and you gotta have no choice. If you know, so you have to need to do it, and I think that it's certainly a luxury to be able to do that. But you have to not be able to stop. Is another way of putting it, more elegant, you know, because obviously this takes us to the question of fate, if you are fated or not.
Absolutely.
To do what you're doing, yeah.
And to go for it, even though fears come up, the art should never stop you. Actually, the opposite. As soon as we feel these fears, this is the best way of expressing our fears too. So it's a way of being brave, making art as an artist, letting go of fears and just do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you believe in love, Pato? Is love...
Totally. Because yes, I mean, the artists are usually, I mean, painters at least, are usually quite open to that, because it's a very similar state, you know. So I think that to be in love and suffering, as well as of course being elated, it's the essence, because then you're lost. So you need to be finding something, finding the other, finding the drawing, finding. So this state of this heightened state, it's wonderful. I recently, a couple of days ago, came across the last play of Ibsen, the famous theater playwright, and it has a wonderful title called "When We Dead Waken." Right. So and the argument is precisely that. It's an old artist that married a younger wife, and they are sort of in this spa somewhere in Norway, and then he bumps into his old muse, and of course there is love and whatever there. So that's why the title, you know. So when you can be without love, you're dead, basically. Yes. In the sense that you carry on doing, but there's still just zombified, you know.
Yeah.
And to be loved, of course, is not an easy. I mean, I certainly don't mean the happy sort of thing, because there is. I love this alchemy. Maybe we will have time to talk about alchemy, which is also important.
Yes.
But basically, there is a concept in alchemy called the alkaest, which is, I always understood to be love on a way, which is a liquid that cannot be contained because it burns all the containers. And so in a way, love, you cannot contain it. And that's why, among many other things, Oscar Wilde said that you kill the thing you love, you know, because when one tries to protect oneself from the hurt or try to make a central tenet, one usually loses it, you know. So love ethically means, and everyone knows this, everyone that's been in love, to abandon yourself, you know, and that is the same as doing art, you know. I mean, doing true art. So for me, they are undistinguishable in many ways, you know.
Beautiful what you said about abandon. You abandon yourself when there is this feeling of love. It's the same for you. When
it demands that. It invites you to it. You know, and once you it's like a fire that, I mean, you can see a lot in the poets, you know. It's like a fire that you need to cross, and you need to be there, you know. It's but creativity has the same color, you know.
Yeah.
And
I'm still lost in this sort of love being about abandoning ourselves. So true. Many people control themselves because they're scared of being hurt, or, as you said, fears of not making a good painting, but that's not love. So if we keep this thought within us, it's going to give us so much strength. Thank you, Pato. So regarding this alchemy you want to talk about, why alchemy is so important for you? In life or paintings in general?
Yes, it's a good question, because I don't know where the genesis was of that. But I remember years ago when I was in my studio here in front of the fireplace, and the reflections of the fire were reflecting in this huge orange background painting I had, and I began to hallucinate this sort of gold leaf, you know.
Wow.
So around that time I began to do, and if you put a link there to my work, you will see that a lot of them use metals, gold, copper, and silver, and in a way the transmuting, the metamorphosis of things, you know, the fact that in a way that you are bleeding the page every time you paint, you know. So in a way, to transmute the base metals into more refined things is the aim of alchemy, and it's also the aim of art. Of course, you're doing that with your own soul too, but the guide is the artwork that you have in front of you, you know. So the intention has a high intention of transcendence. But one doesn't, which is not very clear. It's not very clear to us what is at stake there. That's why the unknown is important, and that's why love enables you to open to the unknown and allow things to emerge. you know.
Beautiful. Yes, we wouldn't jump into the unknown without love being
Exactly. Yeah.
And only into the unknown we discover things that we would never discover, and that's when they say magic happens. So it is truly important to have this feeling of love toward a person, toward a philosophy, toward something we love, because that's when magic happens, because we don't have boundaries and we step forward. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking, I mean, so many thoughts on that. Yes,
So true.
The presence of danger or the unknown is very important, and this relates. I don't know why, because all these things they were sort of appear to me rather than. I'm always looking, right? But it's not that I intellectually selected certain themes and things, but in recent times, I mean, the figure of the hero, like all of us are heroes, and it has a bad connotation, of course, in contemporary society or in mass media and in tabloids and things like.
Yes,
a concept that don't people use very much, but the hero is so understood as this journey, this quest, you know, in which we all are. And I was reflecting on a lot of the recent paintings. I mean, this is a series I call the Apotheosis of the Hero, the climax of the hero, as this sort of self-portrait or image of humankind as both torn and elated at the same time. Yeah. And describing what is recently I've been aware of this, tends to describe rites of passages. So arrival, crossing into unknown areas. So these epic, in inverted commas, epic moments in which we are, you know, the hero has archetypical things like the call to the unknown. Even Christ and Buddha and everyone, it's like they have moments in which they go to the wilderness or something is calling them and they have to undergo trials, you know. So this sense of adventure and awe, and I sort of have my own mythology, but they usually have this narrative.
Absolutely beautiful. This exploration that is like us making us undone, so to break this shell and to go into this wilderness phase where maybe we can get a bit lost, but that's when we discover and we have answers back, and then we come out full of light. So we go into the wilderness to feel this danger, to come out safe, stronger than ever.
Yes, exactly. And I think that there is someone that used to put exactly what you're saying as like the hero has these three fundamental moments: the departure, this moment in which he enters into some sort of acquaintance with something supernatural, and then it comes back to humanity to bestow some boons on humanity. You know, certainly the Christ and the Greek heroes and all that have that element. You know, so departing, this sort of struggle, and this coming back. So all that, of course, is plastically very much informed by, well, both the many years in exposed to the artworks of the British Museum, but also looking at books and mixing on a way this sort of language of sculpture, you know, with contemporary.
Yes, beautiful. And I would say maybe the hero concept is so important in today's world because we are going through a new era. We are transforming, and so we are looking at the heroes in a different way. So who are our heroes? People we can trust, but most of the heroes we have today are so fake. So it's better to represent our own ideal hero that maybe myself can be and you can be, Pato, instead of comparing us to these fake heroes that just confuse us because they don't have the same values. So let's go back to the past and let's understand that we are all heroes in this planet, and we can make things happening like Pato is doing with beautiful paintings. Pato, I can see there is also the value of death in your paintings. There is a bit of death. So these are always part of this metamorphosis. Are you scared of death?
I am not, you know, I'm not. I think that's the ultimate, but it's true. I mean, I appreciate that you say that because it's, and I'm thinking also in other painters I admire that they can have maybe a landscape in which one feels death somehow.
Yes.
Lurking, but it's the ultimate horizon. And to love, to be aware of death is not to be macabre, but it's to celebrate life, you know. I mean, in Latin America, it's a lot like that. I mean, Mexican culture, for instance, celebrate a lot of death, but they live the moment more strongly. So you become aware of the finitude of things.
That's
so
something that dies is gonna reborn. So let's avoid thinking of death as a negative concept, which is not. Of course, if it's an accident, it's very sad, but death in general is something is gonna reborn in another cycle better than ever. Yes, death is
exactly. In that sort of mythological language I was describing before, is the ultimate portal. No, and in fact, in some of the Greek stories and all this, the hero has to go back through that portal and sort of come back, you know, like in Orpheus, which I think is a very relevant hero for today, you know, this idea of going for love into the underworld. Beautiful. And then coming back, you know, or beautiful. And that's also a beautiful metaphor of being able to go there because of love, you know. Same with Dante Alighieri, you know, and the Divine Comedy, you know, that he's sort of is the love for Beatrice that enables him to carry on, you know.
Beautiful. I love Dante Alighieri stories. Yes, to go into the underworld, like you said, Pato, to explore and come back. That's what we should do when we meditate sometimes, I believe, or when we feel art, we explore dimensions that are not part of our present. This is the magic of life. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Wow. So it got quite spiritual. I love it. Yes.
Pato, yes, your art for me is super spiritual. I can't wait to organize this IGTV live exhibition event at your beautiful gallery. Before we talk about this event and we can structure it actually here online for our guests to know what is going to happen, explain in one sentence, dear Pato, or even better, one word, your art, if you can.
Wonder, I will say.
Repeat it again, sorry.
Wonder.
Wonder. Explain it to us, please.
Yes, no, I think the sense of awe, I mean, I don't know if my English pronunciation, but awe, wonder in front of reality, you know? It's like, I think that's a fundamental, very close to love, but it's the fundamental essence, you know, just to be in awe, in sort of admiration, surprise, and willing to do something with that awe, you know, with that wonder, to respond to it. So I think it comes from that fundamental place, you know.
Beautiful. I love it, Pato. And do you usually, when we are going to organize this event at your gallery, let's talk about this. Do you usually
exactly.
Do you want to do a live painting? Because as an artist, some artists, they want to be in their own bubble while they paint, while they feel this amazing thriving and fight. Would you be happy to paint live in front of other people, or do you prefer to expose your paintings? How do you see your exhibition, the next one following that we're going to make together?
I will prefer, yes, to keep private the act of painting. I mean, I've done a few experiments like this. I remember once upon a time of doing a little bit of a performance, and it has these interesting things. But I think that, I think that one, it's not that I mind or I feel too bad, but I think one is preparing a present, as it were. So it's better to receive it when it's ready. Yeah. Also, I think that it's very interesting what happened, because the spectator arrives at the artwork in a journey which is, they meet in the artwork, but it's the other way around than the artist does it. It begins with a vision and then completes the vision, and that complete vision in the spectator unravels into a general idea, you know. So it's beautiful, that sort of encounter, you know. But at the moment, we got with my business and created friend and partner a project in Highgate called 3 Highgate, where we got an exhibition of paintings and visuals of mine combined with text, all to do poetry and play, all to do with antiquity. So there's a great place for everyone that follows you to come around. We can put a date if you want, or it could be also, because now we got opening times. So people can come at their own at their own time, or we can make an event. But I would be happy to try the impossible, which is to explain or help, you know.
Let's try to make the impossible, as we love it, Pato. First of all, where is based your gallery, so people can visit you, even though apart these events we're going to do? Where is your gallery?
Yes, the gallery is in Highgate Village, which is a wonderful part of town, like a sister brother of Hampstead. The heath itself is not very far. Many of you might know the Highgate Cemetery, which is at the back, and there is a wonderful park called Waterloo Park. So we are called 3 Highgate. We are in number 3 Highgate High Street. And this is, of course, North London, and Archway will be, I think, the closest tube, the Northern Line. And it's maybe 8-10 minutes walk from Archway up the hill into the village. And we are open on the weekend, Saturday and Sundays, and on Thursdays from 2 o'clock. Yes.
Please be in touch with Pato if you want to visit the gallery space before this exhibition where we are going to host all of you. Can't wait to host my friends at your space, Pato, and then they can properly meet you and hear your stories, which are incredible. So what would you say regarding this podcast to your guests? So do you want to say a quote that you really love?
Wow, choose one. Choose one, it will be impossible. I don't know if there is one that will summarize everything. I mean, I go through so many. I mean, I don't know if necessarily quotes, but poems and things that I'm always not sort of meditating, but living with, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a very good question, because now I don't know which is the one. I'm sure it will come to me after we finish our conversation. Okay. So we can put it. We can post it right in it. Yes. Yes. We will leave it for later. Yeah. For post-scriptum. Yes.
Yes, I would say that I love this podcast with Pato, first of all, because of the philosophy behind, which is about this metamorphosis, gods, love stories, affairs, and transformation, which is my favorite topic at the moment, since we are going through this phase of life, which is the most important to build our better future. So these phases of metamorphosis that can be described as dissolving, imagining, reforming, and flying. And these 4 elements, I see them in your paintings, Pato. So for me, there is nothing better than an artist that is able to represent such an important topic through creativity like you do, with these amazing colors and representations of images. It's incredible. And these paintings are huge. We're not talking about small paintings, so they're very impactful for my soul. So thank you so much, Pato, for representing through your art these beautiful concepts.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Francesca. Thank you.
And okay, we're gonna put more information above the post. Bye, everyone. This is Pato. You're gonna meet him soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.